Привет. I'm Chuck Olenek, otherwise known as Yaroslav. That's my baptismal name. And I'm going to continue talking about things Slavic. And this is going to be a continuation of a previous video where we discuss the Pysanky. All right? The Easter egg. Egg decoration or Pysankarstvo. It's a widespread practice throughout Eastern and Central Europe, and it's not just practiced by Slavic people. Romanians are doing it, Hungarians are doing it, Lithuanians are doing it also. The Pysanky is a wax resist decorated type of egg, and it's pretty much a national symbol of Ukraine. It's known throughout the world. But there's a bunch of different kinds of objects that get called Pysanky. And there's all sorts of lore about the colors and the designs used. And we're going to take a quick look at these to better understand an art that appears on a seasonal basis. All right, throughout Eastern Europe and Central Europe, throughout every single region, every village, and just about every family, they have their own special rituals about the eggs, as far as the meanings and the secret formulas for dyeing the eggs. And these customs are preserved faithfully, and they're passed on from mother to daughter and through the generations. And the custom of decorating the Pysanky, that was observed with the greatest of care. The Pysanka, once it's been blessed, was considered to be a very powerful talisman. Okay, they were traditionally written, because Pysanky are written, not painted. They're written during the last week of Lent, Holy Week, in the Orthodox calendar, and it's done by the women of the family. So during the middle of the Lenten season, women start checking out the eggs that are being laid, and they start setting aside the most perfectly shaped and the most smooth. And they're actually supposed to be fertilized eggs, because if you're going to use non-fertile eggs, there's no fertility in the house. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to take a look at the colors and the symbolism there. Although the earliest Pysanky were often simply two-toned, and many folk designs still are, some believe that the more colors that were on a decorated egg, the more magical power the egg held. A multicolored egg could thus bring its owner better luck and a better fate. Okay, the color palette of traditional folk Pysanky, that's kind of limited. You're using natural dyes, and that's based off of dried plants and roots and bark and berries, insects like the cochineal, and yellow, red, orange, green, brown, and black are pretty much going to be the main colors. You'd get yellow from the flowers of the woad waxen, and gold from onion skins. Red would be extracted from logwood, or the cochineal, that's that bug. Actually, it's the Polish version or the Armenian version, and you'd get something, that particular shade was called St. John's blood. And dark green and violet came from the husks of sunflower seeds and the berries and bark of the elderberry bush. Black dye was made from walnut husks. Pink would end up coming from beet juice. And if you've ever worn white and you've ever had borscht, you know all about the pink dye that beet juice will leave. All right. The dyes were prepared in secret, and these are recipes handed down within the family. Sometimes for the hard-to-get colors or unusual colors, these might be purchased from peddlers, along with alum, which was used to help the vegetable dye stick to the eggshell. And the dyes had different meanings in different regions, and you could open it up to all kinds of interpretations. Like red could be life-giving blood, or it could represent love and joy or the hope of marriage. Black could be representing the other world, but not in a negative way. Yellow might be about the moon and the stars. Uh, and it might be something about agriculture or specifically the harvest. Because, yes, the wheat turning yellow and all that stuff. And blue might represent the blue skies or good health, and white could represent purity and virginity. But this isn't exact. The stuff does this information or these interpretations, they change from region to region. So this isn't like you got a decoder ring and aha, I know what that means. Not necessarily. You got to take it within the context of the region. Back to writing Pysanky. The Pysanky are written at night and when the children are asleep. The women in the family would gather together, say the appropriate prayers, and then go to work. It's done in secret. The patterns and color combinations were handed down from mother to daughter and carefully guarded. All right, so before we get into the designs, and actually I'm going to get into the types of things that people describe as Pysanky. But before that, I need to kind of explain how this decorating of the or writing of the Pysanky is done. Okay, a stylus gets used, and there's two different words that I ran into that are in Ukrainian. One's called a pisachok, and it comes from a word to write, and the other one is kistka. And at first I was given an explanation of, no, that's to write. Like, no, I know that word in Ukrainian. That means bone. And why that word is particularly significant, with a kistka or a pisachok, it's supposed to be a thin tube or a hollow cone that gets filled with molten beeswax. And that's going to end up applying the beeswax to the eggshell. Well, once you remove the marrow, bones are hollow. And so this created this incredible image of, remember, writing the Pysanky, that's supposed to be a thing for the women, all right? That's the distaff side. And they are, imagine these women, they're all sitting up in the middle of the night. After they have said the appropriate prayers, they're writing on the Pysanky with a kistka. That just struck me as an amazing image. All right, so how you do it. And this is not really a how-to. This is the, quick version. Okay, so beeswax gets heated up on this very large stove that is kept in every, traditional Russian izba and Ukrainian chata, the house, the cottage. And, the beeswax gets heated up there, and then you start using the pisachok or the kistka, which is basically a lot of times it's a piece of thin brass that's formed into a cone, and it's wrapped around a needle, and it's attached to a small stick that's usually made of willow. And so, very first layer, writing takes place on the white eggshell. Okay, then the egg gets dipped in a yellow dye. All right, so the stuff under the wax is going to still remain white. And then you move on to writing other designs on, and then you start dipping this into progressively darker and darker colors. So you're dealing with orange and with red and with green, and then, eventually you get to black. And then after that final color is applied, you're usually going to either gently heat the egg on the peach and wipe off the melted wax, or you briefly dip the egg in boiling water and do the same. And the towel is a really big talisman too, as far as it's got a lot of power associated with it. That towel that you've used to wipe off the egg. Okay, that's going to get saved for later. Okay, so now we're going to get into just what can be called a Pysanky, if you want to get very general about it. I had no idea that it would take this long to talk about an egg. I hope you stick around for the next video as I try to wrap up the wonder of the Pysanky.